Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to Xbox On.
Now, whilst there's loads to look forward to at E3, there's nothing quite like the Xbox E3 conference.
It's there where we get to see all the brand new games coming out, as well as the new hardware, especially Project Scorpio this year, which I'm really excited for, but they always keep back some awesome surprises.
So it's got us thinking about all the legendary Xbox E3 conferences of the past, so let's take a look.
Looking back at the earliest E3 conferences, they were way more down to earth. They often involved the heads of game companies showing off their titles in an intimate setting. They look more like home movies than the blockbuster presentations of today. Fast forward 15 years and it's all about putting on an incredible show full of crazy stunts and big moments. And it's hard to think of a bigger moment than the arrival of Forza Motorsport 6 in 2015. Having watched the presentation about the history of the Ford GT, the newest model of the legendary car was revealed at the conference itself. Descending from the ceiling like a giant metal angel, it looks amazing to watch it on the stream, but being in the room was really awesome. It was crazy to think we were watching the whole show with that car hanging in the air above us. Needless to say, the first thing I'm going to be doing when I go into this year's conference is take a good look at the ceiling and see what they're hiding up there this time. We stick with E3 2015 for our next entry, the arrival of Gears of War 4 on Xbox One. It was a classic 1-2 punch from the head of the coalition, Rod Ferguson, appearing on stage to announce Gears of War Ultimate Edition before taking the controller to show us something else that he'd been working on, Gears of War 4. It was clear from the second he started the demo what a graphical leap for the series this was, with a moonlit scene showing off the obscenely pretty lighting and an amazing attention to detail. One of the best things about rewatching these early E3 reveals is seeing what did and didn't make the cut in the final game. For starters, the scene only stars JD and Kate. Presumably, Dell was still being rendered back at Gears HQ. We also get to see an early version of the wind flare attacking the masonry, although the final effect is way more epic. We get a tiny hint of enemies to come as JD pokes at a gooey egg pod. This one doesn't have a juvie inside, thankfully. The only enemy we saw in the trailer was the Pouncer, but it makes a great first impression, leaping onto our hero and showing off all the tiny painful details inside its horrible mouth. This early E3 look was the essence of the final game boiled down into 5 intense minutes, and was enough to keep us hungering for more as we waited a long 6 months for the game's beta. Hundreds of hours go into producing a trailer or an on-stage demo for an E3 conference, but sometimes the best way of drilling the message into the fans' skulls is to do something a little different. Back in his Xbox days, Peter Moore discovered that the most effective way of making headlines was to use himself as a human billboard. At E3 2004, Moore revealed Halo 2's release date tattooed on his bicep. It's a good thing the game didn't slip, or he would have come to regret that one. It was an incredibly memorable moment, but one that was topped 3 years later at E3 2007. When Moore took to the stage and removed his jacket, fans knew they were in for another big announcement. This time when he rolled up his sleeve, it was Grand Theft Auto 4. Although the legendary series had appeared on Xbox before, this was the first time the series had been revealed first on a Microsoft platform. This was a huge win for Microsoft and a pretty good excuse to get inked. Peter Moore then left Microsoft later that year to go and work at EA, though I'm kind of wondering if that's because he ran out of arms to reveal games on.
So, who here likes free stuff? I mean, it's safe to say everyone does, right? Well, 2010's E3 proved to be extra special for the audience as they were all given a brand new Xbox 360 Slim for free right after its reveal. I mean, you don't get much better than that. As to be expected, the audience went mad, jumping up in their seats and screaming the house down. Does that mean we can expect a whole load of free Scorpios this time around? Hey, a girl can dream. In terms of the reveal, it was definitely a welcome sight. The 360 Slim compared to the original 360 was so much sleeker, with over double the amount of space and internal Wi-Fi. Hiding one console inside the other showed just how much of a visual improvement the Slim was. It was also selling for the same price as the original 360, so you didn't have to pay loads more to get all those lovely new features. Of course, some people didn't have to pay anything. Did I mention I'd really like a Scorpio? Phil, if you're watching, make it happen, please.
Over the years, we've sat through hundreds of on-stage demonstrations, as video game designers try their best to bring their games to life in a short 5-minute burst of fun. In 2016, Rare took a slightly different approach to showing Sea of Thieves. In the weeks leading up to E3, they had invited a select group of superfans to the studio to try out an early version of the game. Little did the fans know that their play session and their reactions to the game would end up being the E3 trailer. Game companies always talk about being real gamers, and while that's true, this was the first time we saw some everyday Xbox fans taking center stage at E3. Of course, the social side of Sea of Thieves is absolutely vital to its appeal. It's a game that's all about working with strangers to try and sail a busy ship and the madness that unfolds when everyone meets for a massive scrap. The reactions of the fans on screen are exactly the same as our reactions when we finally got to play the game on the show floor that year. And before anyone says it was fate, while we were queuing to go into the conference itself, we actually stood next to the group of gamers who appeared in the trailer. I think it blew their minds as much as it did ours. If Microsoft are looking for anyone to film their demos this year, they know where to find me. Yeah? Graeme? Phil? Guys?
Backwards compatibility was one of the most exciting announcements in recent years. It was something the community was crying out for. It's a bit of a faff having to switch between your 360 and your Xbox One depending on what game you want to play. And with such a huge and amazing library available on the 360, it felt like a shame to put those games away and let them get covered in dust. Not anymore with backwards compatibility. As Phil Spencer announced it on stage, the crowd went absolutely wild. Of course, seeing is believing, and watching the legendary Mass Effect play on the Xbox One, complete with screenshots and broadcast functioning, felt like all our dreams were coming true. Xbox were really listening to their audience. No one wants to have to buy the games they already own so they can play it on Xbox One. New games are joining the program all the time, including the much requested Black Ops 2. Finally, Phil Spencer gets a break from being asked when it's joining back Compat. Thank God, I'm not sure the man could take much more. What games are you looking forward to joining back Compat? Let us know in the comments below.
It's hard to imagine a time when Halo didn't exist, but back at E3 2000, the world had yet to see Master Chief and get a taste of his incredible space adventures. But the first trailer we were shown that year was very different to the final game. At this moment in time, the game was a third-person action game. You could see an early version of Chief running around an alien world gunning down the Covenant forces. Even if the perspective wasn't quite right, it's cool to see how many pieces of the puzzle were already in place. Chief's weapons and armor looked amazing. The skies were full of pelicans and banshees, and the planet could be explored in a warthog. We also saw our hero driving around packs of strange alien beasts. A pretty cool idea that didn't make the final cut, though it was already clear that Bungie had an amazing sci-fi vision. Everyone who saw the presentation was left wanting more. 1 year later, and Halo Combat Evolved appeared at E3 in a far more familiar form. Our heads were inside Master Chief's armor and our hands were wrapped around the massive original Xbox controller. This was the game that was going to conquer the world and started a long tradition of Halo blowing us away at E3. While E3 is now home to the biggest announcements in gaming, the Xbox 360 was actually revealed a month before E3 2005. Not that it didn't make a splash in the conference, the whole show was dedicated to Microsoft's magic white box, casually brought to the stage in a shoulder bag. Imagine trying to do that now, you'd be mugged before you even reach the stage. The whole conference was dedicated to revealing more about how the console's dash would work, all the extra functions it could handle, and most importantly, how amazing those games would look. For all of us watching at home, the demos blew the eyeballs out of the back of our heads. There was Dead or Alive 4 with its silky smooth frame rate and stupidly pretty cutscenes. Call of Duty 2 showed off a trailer that isn't actually that far from the most recent World War II trailer, another amazing looking D-Day landing scene. We saw the first trailer for Oblivion, a game that would go on to eat an entire month of my life. Though, of course, the star of the show, and the game that would dominate headlines during E3, was the first proper outing for Gears of War. This was the game that best showed off the meaty power of the Xbox 360. In a trailer that gave us a glimpse of the world we would be exploring and the beasts we'd be trying to escape from. The wait between this conference and the game's release in November 2006 would be agony. Hey, at least we had a shiny new console to help fill the time. There is nothing more exciting at E3 than a new hardware reveal. Games are good, yes, but new hardware means all the games get better. E3 2016 gave us 2 such moments. The surprise reveal of the Xbox One S was great, and there wasn't a pair of eyes in the room that didn't want to have that sleek white box sitting under their telly. But the announcement of Project Scorpio took our excitement to the next level. A big part of the magic of the moment was the way that it was delivered. Having talked for an hour and a half about all the great games coming to Xbox One and the way that all the devices in the Xbox family were playing together, Phil Spencer mentioned that it was just as important to look to the horizon. The moment the words "Beyond Generations" appeared on the screen, the audience knew what was coming. Listen carefully and you can hear one fan say, "Oh yeah, baby."
That's just the beginning.
And he wasn't wrong. The reveal trailer was light on details but big on promise, handing the mic to third-party developers from EA and Bethesda and members of Gears of War and Halo teams to talk about the philosophy behind the machine.
They wanted a console that had no boundaries, had no limitations.
The highest res, the best frame rate, no compromises.
Sure, the teaser only gives a handful of the broadest specs, the 8 CPU cores, over 320 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth, but it painted a picture of a machine with a huge amount of power, and one that clearly gets developers excited, and when developers get excited, we're excited. We've probably watched the trailer about 100 times since E3 2016 and are now only weeks away from hearing more about the final machine. We have faith that E3 2017 is going to serve us even more epic moments, so make sure you don't miss it.
So there we have it. So the best moments from Xbox conferences. Do make sure to let us know what you think in the comments below and what your favorite is. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our E3 coverage next month.
And don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoyed this video and check out last week's list show whilst you're at it. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.